Hey guys, happy Sunday. Good morning. Man, what a day for basketball yesterday. I mean, I don't even know exactly what the headline is. I'm assuming it's the Luka Anthony Davis trade, but in my world, I'm still excited about the Arkansas victory against Kentucky. Calipari goes into Kentucky. Oh my God, what an environment. If you didn't watch that game yesterday, just watch the highlights, rewatch the game from the opening tip. It was just electric. Every shot felt like it was going in. A 50-50 game all the way through. And then Arkansas just kept making shots in the second half, turned up the intensity. Arkansas beats Kentucky. Carolina was on the verge of losing by 50 to Duke. They made it respectable by losing by 17, but holy God almighty, is this Cooper Flag guy good? And Duke is really good. Wow, I mean, really good defensively, just unbelievable. And then I can't believe the Texas Tech coach got thrown out of the game. If you haven't seen this, you need to see it. I don't know how else to explain. This has got to be the worst ejection in the history of player ejections I can ever think of. The Texas Tech best player, 4 minutes into the game, gets thrown out of the game as he's passing the ball out of a double team. And yes, his leg accidentally, keyword accidentally, kicks the guy in the groin. Not a great area to be kicked in. They can't be thrown out of the game. The coach loses his mind for Texas Tech. They're already 10-point underdogs. They lose their best player, lose the coach 4 minutes into the game. Somehow they're still in it, but they're down six with not much time left. They flip that around, hit a big three, get the game to overtime, and then win the game in overtime by a point. Just unbelievable. Houston's really good, but man, they just get anxious down the stretch, and they don't seem as good as they were the past couple of years. Kansas loses to Baylor after being up by 21 points. Holy goodness gracious. And then Auburn's just amazing. Auburn dominates on the road. If they played that on offense, I mean, oh man, just great all the way around, except for Florida to start the look. So Tennessee plays amazing defense. I know they play amazing defense, but I mean, Arkansas outscored Florida almost in their first half for Florida's whole game. They're only down three at the end of the first half, but they had 21 points and they could get absolutely nothing going. So I just clearly got that game wrong. Meanwhile, Tennessee couldn't score themselves. It's just Florida. Just man, every time it felt like the shot clock is going down to zero. So that one I get wrong. Arkansas obviously rolled over Kentucky, so that was nice. But I gotta. Here's my take on this Luka Anthony Davis thing. So all right, very rarely do I think that it's a good trade for both teams, and I see the value. So here's my headline from it. The main reason why the trade happened, the number one reason why the trade happened is because the Mavericks don't want to pay Luka Doncic. Like at the end of the day, I don't like Luka. If you listened to me before last year, I don't like him. I cannot stand elite athletes not being in tip top shape. It makes zero sense to me. And then not to play great defense, let alone average defense, let alone show up and play any sort of defense. Like Luka just bothers me. Because if you're that good of a dribbler, if you're that good of a ball handler, then you would be amazing on defense. Like the same skill set applies. It's the quick feet, it's the intelligence, it's angles, it's all that stuff. So there's no way you can be an amazing ball handler and then not at least really good on defense. So I don't love Luka, and here's the problem with him: he's always fat and out of shape. Yeah, he's still amazing, but he's always fat and out of shape, and it's annoying. He's 25, going on 26. At some point, you got to grow up. And that's why they lost to Boston last year, because he just doesn't have that next gear that you need if you're going to be the best player. So he's still amazing at basketball, but I can see if I own the team, if I'm running the team, the deal that they would have had to pay him is a 5-year, $345 million deal. Like that's how the NBA works. That's the super max. That's what he's eligible for after this year. And they were either going to have to pay him or you can't short the guy. You can't give him 312 million. It doesn't work like that in the NBA. The best players get the super max. They get whatever it is. That's why Jaylen Brown got that number after they won a couple years ago, whenever that was. I think it was 2 years ago. But the point is, Luka was going to get it, and the Mavs decided we don't want to pay him. And I don't really blame them because they weren't going to win the championship this year with Luka. They were trying to run it back, and it wasn't going to work. Luka's out of shape, hurt. out of shape, hurt, whatever words you want to use. I mean, it's Mavs are floating at 26 and 23. They got Kyrie for one more elite year after this year, and then it's probably over with. And they just decided they didn't want to build around Luka. Maybe Luka behind the scenes said he didn't want to be there. I highly doubt that because he cannot make this much money with the Lakers. It just can't. Like the way it all works is to incentivize your best player to stay with the team that drafts them. They can offer him what's deemed the supermax. And if he's traded before, the other team can't offer him as much money. They just can't. Rubenstein likes that stuff, salary cap and all that jazz, but players don't. So there's a 0% chance that Luka, in my opinion, went to the Mavs and was like, hey, I'd rather, be traded here to LA where there's no state tax in Dallas. Now I got to pay all this money in LA before I get the 345. No, I'd rather, the way it works is you get the extension, then you ask to get out of there. So I really don't think Luka, it was his idea. I think the Mavs, the number one story is the Mavs don't want to pay Luka. That's number one. So then they decide, well, can we win this year? How could we win this year, the championship? Not just make the playoffs, but how could we actually win the championship this year? Is there any single person we could add that would give us a chance to win this year? Because they might have another trade left in them. We'll see. And if you look around the league, I guess Anthony Davis is the only, if you believe he gives them a chance to win, he's at least the best player available because you weren't going to get Jokic, you weren't going to get Giannis, you weren't going to get Tatum. Just not going to work out that way. Like those players, maybe Tatum. I don't know. I don't think the Celtics would trade Tatum for Luka. They just won last year with Tatum. I don't know. It just seems like that they wouldn't do that. Shea, you're not going to get Shea. The Thunder aren't going to do that. So, I mean, Anthony Davis is one of the 10 best players in basketball. Like, you're running out of players at that point. Plus, he's, 29? It's not like he's 35. He's probably got 5 years left, maybe 4 or 5 years of elite play. And by all accounts, he wanted to go to Dallas. Like, he waived his trade kicker, so he didn't have to do that. Dallas gives him a position. If you look at their roster now, it's Kyrie. He's got to be elite, but I mean, he really is elite offensively. And so you're going to give him more of a load for the last half of the year. I think he would love that opportunity. I think you get the best version of Kyrie now. And Dinwiddie is the off guard. That probably needs to be improved. I don't think him and Kyrie can play together. That's a really weak defensive backcourt, but it was weak when Luka was there. And they got PJ Washington, who, he is what he is. He's a serviceable as your fifth best player on a championship team, maybe your fourth best player. And now Dallas is going to go all in on defense. Nico Harrison, the guy that runs the Mavericks, that's what he said in his press release. They want to go all in on defense. So they're going to have Gafford play center, the center from the Wizards, who's as good of a defensive center as you can find. It just is what it is for the value. And Anthony Davis doesn't have to play center. So that guy, Gafford, will guard Jokic and will bang with some of the other big guys in the West while Davis gets to float over. That was the recipe the Lakers used to beat the Nuggets in the bubble, where they had Dwight Howard guard Jokic and they would have JaVale McGee guard Jokic, and then Davis could kind of float over as the free safety. I kind of like it. They still have Klay Thompson. So that's, you put yourself in a situation where it's like, I don't know. If I'm Dallas, I feel like I have just as good of a chance to win the championship with Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic. Everybody loves Luka. It seems like I just don't see it. I see the amazing passing, but at some point you got to grow up. Now, on the flip side, from the Lakers' perspective, an amazing trade, because if you're going to get if Luka is going to be pissed off and underpaid, and he's going to have LeBron James, and he's going to have Los Angeles, that's how you get the best version of Luka. So I feel like both things are true. I think the Mavericks are better, and I would have done it if I'm Dallas too. I save money. I get flexibility. I added Max Christie also. I got a first-round pick. People are saying they should have been able to get more. You got to understand something. Like, Luka is not as loved. These owners are sick and tired of the players, having all the leverage. So it's a big club, as George Carlin, the famous comedian, would always say. It's one big club, and you're not in it, or we're not in it, and that's how it is with the owners. You're not going to keep showing up fat and out of shape and expect to get all the advantages. Like you're not going to get the supermax. They're going to find ways to manipulate situation, and it's a warning shot, I think, to these elite basketball players where it's like, man, anybody can get it. Anybody can be traded. But for Luka, it's not like they sent him to the Pistons. It's not like they sent him. He literally is now in the best situation you could possibly ask for his career. So it's really on him. He probably now is going to be the best version of himself, which for the Lakers is fantastic because they couldn't win the championship with LeBron and AD. It's just not enough, and they couldn't make a trade to get one more scorer, and they need one more scorer. And if not one more scorer, then the guy that's going to get everybody else up 3, 4, 5 points a game because it's Luka Doncic. Luka is elite at exactly what LeBron's elite at. And with LeBron, it's hard to imagine not getting a super motivated Luka. They should win the title this year. That should be the attitude. If I'm Luka, if I'm LeBron, we got 3 months to win the title. It feels like it's viable. You look at the rest of their roster. Jackson Hayes is the typical 5 that LeBron, is comfortable with on the court. If he wants to be the 4, just a rim runner, guy that doesn't need the ball, will play super hard. Or they just go with Rui and LeBron and Luka, and they fill it out with 2 more shooters and go small. You still have Reeves. So depending on who they're matching up against, if they're going to play a team out in Minnesota, with Rudy Gobert out there, or a team like Denver with Jokic, sure, they can have a big guy that just kind of is there. But Anthony Davis wasn't strong enough as that 5 either. So they'll probably trade for one more big guy, and they're going to try to beat you this time scoring a gazillion points and just having an offense that you can't stop because LeBron, amidst of all the college basketball yesterday, which, as I touched on, was fantastic, LeBron is the best player in basketball in the whole world again last night. And I don't even like him, but he goes into New York and just triple-doubles them, blows them out, and is without Anthony Davis. So it's hard for me to think that the Lakers aren't the best team with a motivated Luka. Matchup-wise, it'll become super interesting. Do other teams do things? You can't running out of adjectives to describe how monumental of a trade it is. But the takes that I completely disagree with is that the Mavs got hosed. You have to look at it from the Mavs perspective. It's not a video game. Luka just is not giving you 110% coming off of a finals appearance. So if you're not going to win this year and you got to pay him and he's going to be annoyed because it's going to be somewhat of a rebuild, it's like he's just hard to please. Everybody's had somebody like that in their life where it's it's never enough, it seems like. And that's the vibe with Luka in Dallas. And Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, all guys that have won on different teams. It's kind of an interesting situation, right? Davis won with the Lakers, Thompson won with the Warriors, Kyrie won with the Cavs. They were all the second banana, sometimes the third banana. If you ask Klay how it felt sometimes in Golden State. So it's an interesting chip on your shoulder sprint with a defensive-minded team where Kyrie is just your best player down the stretch. And can he be your best player down the stretch? Yeah, we'll see. With Shea and Luka and LeBron and Jokic, there's a lot of elite players, but Kyrie's still, if you watch him, he is still the best shot maker in the world. Just shot makers, 10 seconds left on the clock. You need to get a bucket. And with Klay out there, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, it's interesting. So, yeah, very, very, very wild stuff there. Late night in the NBA. College basketball is awesome. I do like Ohio State today. Illinois is just way too inconsistent. Favored by 7 points at home against Ohio State. And I like Ohio State. I had them against Wisconsin. They came back in that second half to cover. So I'm going to roll with Ohio State this afternoon. And then, we'll start NFL tomorrow. But wow, yeah, just a ridiculous trade. But again, the headline is the money. It's always about the money. It's always about the money. If you don't know how to solve a crime, follow the money. If you don't understand why somebody's angry, follow the money. it's usually about money. It usually is. And in this situation, it's all about the money here for the Mavericks. They didn't want to pay Luka $345 million for 5 years. And there you go. So they get Anthony Davis out of it. It's the best they possibly could do. That's probably why the Lakers didn't have to give up more because they knew it. So Lakers probably content to just be like, fine, we'll just roll with Davis and LeBron. New owners in Dallas just didn't want to deal with it. So there you have it. Have a good day. Enjoy whatever you're going to do. But if you're betting on the games, good luck. I'll see you guys in the morning.